Hey, this is Mark, the Practical Still. We're about to open up another bottle. If you've been listening lately, you know Dan and I have kind of slid back into Scotch mode. So we've been away from it for a while. I don't know. We just got wrapped up in bourbon and rye and made our way back with the Bunnahabhain 12. Or recently, Dan cracked open a Lasanta, Glenmorangie Lasanta 12 recently. Super delicious. And recently, I walked into a store and stumbled upon a Laphroaig 16-year-old whiskey. Now, if you like Scotch and you like peated Scotch, then you're well familiar with Laphroaig. Islay is this tiny little island. There's a handful of distilleries. I don't remember how many, 5 or 6 or 8 distilleries on Islay. They generally all produce peated Scotch. And so back in the day, when they had to heat the grain to stop it from germinating, and that's what a malted grain is. It begins to germinate. You've got to stop that malted barley, in this case, from germinating. You do that with heat. The only heat source they had a couple hundred years ago was peat. And so they dry these big blocks of peat out, use that as the heat source. Turns out peat smells really funky when you burn it. And when it gets into the grain, the whiskey comes out as funky. And Laphroaig likes to say here, the most richly flavored of all the Scotch whiskeys, that translates to the most funky flavor. It's got super peaty notes in it. If you like peated Scotch, you love this stuff. I do, and more importantly, my wife does, because this fell outside my 2020 whiskey budget because she liked it. So I got to buy this bottle the other day. It was not inexpensive. It was $130. But for a 16-year-old Scotch, when you love peated whiskey, you got to kind of love Laphroaig and you got to stretch a little bit. So we're going to open this guy up. I want to make sure everything's working because I don't want to mess this up. So let's see. It's a 48% whiskey. So we drink a lot of the 10-year-old Laphroaig, which is at 43%. It's chill filtered. It is natural color, so that's nice. But, I wish they wouldn't chill filter it. The 10-year-old cask strength runs around 58 or 59%. It's non-chill filtered. It's a completely different experience. So I'm really wondering, does 6 years worth of age versus what I'm used to with the regular 10 meet somewhere from what I love so much about the 10-year cask strength that's not chill filtered? But we're about to find out, so let's give it a try. Oh, by the way, I do have Melissa's permission to open this while she's at work. And yes, that sounds terrible. She's at work and I'm at home day drinking, doing videos about whiskey. But, we all have our cross to bear. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I've said it before, but I don't think anybody adapts to the aroma and the palate of a peated whiskey. I think you like it or you don't. I think it's genetic, and I don't think you learn to like this stuff. It's fun too. Usually around the holidays, Laphroaig will have a contest where people send in their description of their whiskey, and they'll put it on the wall in the distillery if they like them. But it'll be stuff like, it was like kissing a mermaid in a rubber raft that was on fire in the middle of the ocean. But so the peat's got a medicinal smell to it sometimes. But I gotta say, it does have much more the 10-year-old thing going on the nose than the cask strength. So you'll note that we talk about this a lot. So we just did a podcast on the color of whiskey and what does the color tell you. And you can't say that a darker whiskey is necessarily older, because this is a 16-year-old whiskey that is light and straw colored. And that difference comes largely because Scotch goes into used barrels, whereas American whiskey, bourbons and ryes, goes into new barrels. And that difference, where this Scotch was probably aged in an ex-bourbon barrel because it's not sherried or port finished. It was aged in an ex-bourbon barrel that probably spent somewhere between 4 and 5 or 6 years holding a different liquid. It went to Scotland. It got Laphroaig new make spirit put in it, and then it spent 16 years in that. So if you take 16 years versus what's probably a 4-year-old bourbon, you can certainly see a big difference. That's not an indication of anything other than this is the way this whiskey aged, in the place it aged, in the barrel it aged in. So don't read into that. And now Scotch can have coloring in it, so it's important that they say natural color. I can't imagine if they were going to color it, they would have put more color in it than that. The legs are fantastic. Oh, let's see. The nose is pure Laphroaig. I don't know how you'd miss that anywhere. enjoy. If you like peat, you'll like that. I gotta say, a little edgy. It's peppery. The nose is typical. There's with Laphroaig, there's generally tons of the peat, so you get lots of it's like a campfire a lot of the times, or it is like burning rubber or a Band-Aid. None of that sounds very appetizing, but if you like this stuff, for some reason that works out. Well, when you taste it though, there's that peppery finish. It's sweet. There's a little bit of lemon going on. So, first blush, I'll tell you that if you are either a peated whiskey fan or you're looking to get into something crazy peated and you're heading towards Laphroaig, and you should, because Laphroaig is wonderful. This versus the cast strength 10-year-old, I lean towards the cast strength 10-year-old based on this first taste. Also based on the price, the cast strength 10-year-old, even with the current tariffs, is around $85, $85. This was $130. Proof's not only higher on the 10-year cast strength, but you also get the non-chill filtered, or as they say in Scotland, unchilled. So you get that. So this is really good. This is clearly notches better than the regular 10-year. But again, first blush, we'll let it breathe for a bit. We'll drink on it. We'll go back to the bottle down the road. But given the choice of the two, I'd stick with the 10-year cast strength versus this guy. And and we'll try this. Let's put a little more. So with Scotch, a little splash of water tends to reward you a lot more with a varied flavor than it does with American whiskey. So it doesn't take, that's not enough. It doesn't take a whole lot though. So that's why I tend to use either a little spoon or a straw like this, where I could pull a little bit up and then just put a bit in. You don't want a bunch. Even on the cast strength, the little booklet that comes with it will tell you to bring that down in proof. And I've preached a million times, the purpose of cast strength or barrel proof whiskeys is not so we can prove who's toughest. It's so that we can put that whiskey at the proof level that works for us on the day or the time that we're drinking that whiskey. Scotch particularly rewards you for that. So, and that's weird. That tiny little bit of whiskey, water, changes the nose completely. Now there's much more of a lemony. Oh, yeah, there's much more going on the nose. I don't know what I'm doing over here. Maybe I'm conducting, but whatever. Holy smoke. Completely different with that tiny little bit of water. Oh man, I don't even know how to describe that. Now it's like a citrus burst. It's like limes and pineapples or something. Holy crap. That's delicious. Look, if you've been listening to us, we've certainly been talking about more bourbon, more rye, more American whiskey, anything. But Dan started off in Scotch. I started off with bourbon, but boy, I was quickly into Scotch. I really like peated whiskey. If you want something different, it's certainly different. And Laphroaig is kind of the rock or the punk rocker of that group. So on that same island as Lagavulin, heavily peated, much more refined. This Ardbeg lies somewhere in the middle, but give those a try. If you want something certainly different and available, you can buy pretty much all the Laphroaigs that are sent to the U.S. They're always hanging out. This 16-year-old is kind of weird. Frankly, I hadn't even figured out why it's here. I never heard of a 16-year-old Laphroaig before. I certainly wasn't going to leave it on the shelf. But give that a try. And if you have any questions about that, hit us up on the website at thepracticalstill.com. Hit the Ask button. We'll do our best to answer your questions. Let me know what you think about these videos in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Let me know if I'm doing them right. And check out the podcast where we're going to be talking about some Scotch whiskey because I got this one. I got the Bunnahabhain. I got a Oban 14 to open up. Again, I don't have it. It's my wife's whiskey. That's why it doesn't impact my budget for this year. So I'm going to open up her whiskey and help drink it. But we're going to get into some Scotch over the cooler months. So let me know what you think, and don't miss the Laphroaig. It's too much fun. If you're one of the few people genetically wired to like this stuff, enjoy it, celebrate it, drink more of it, and let me know what you think. Cheers.